What is up, hey balers in multimedia? Hey, I'm just gonna get you started on a program called Blender 3D. Something you want to know about Blender 3D is if you have a computer at home, Blender is free. It's a wonderful thing. Blender is a 3D program. It actually does a ton of stuff. You can add a video in this. You can do special effects, motion tracking. What we're gonna learn today is a bit of modeling. Okay, this is a character I modeled, and it took me a while to learn how to do this. This did not happen overnight. So I want to start off with some basics that allow us to learn some of the steps that will allow you to build something like this with practice and time. So your goal will be to create something like this, and that'll be 4 different shapes and a plane. Now this ground plane helps us see sort of like the 0 on the z-axis where it's flat on the ground. So we have sort of a ground setup, and you want to make a log laying on the ground, or like a cylinder, a cube, an egg shape, and what is that? That's a cone. So use the cone, and your goal is to be able to make those 5 mesh objects, and then to scale, rotate, and position them. So a couple of things that you want to know is that you have object mode. Most of your stuff today we've made in object mode. Nothing else needs to be done outside of object. If you select an object, you can then switch to edit mode, but you don't have to do that today. You can try that and mess around with it if you want, but pushing the tab key will toggle back and forth between object and edit mode. So in object mode, I can do everything we need to do for today's activity. Now, a couple of other things to know is if you hold down the middle mouse button, which is the wheel, you're allowed to rotate your view anywhere you want. Lots of things to see, rotate, see, and this is really helpful when you're trying to see how things are related. Are they touching the ground? Are they not touching the ground? You know, lets you see different viewpoints. You can also use the keypad on your keyboard by pushing 1 to see the front, 3 to see the side, and 7 to see the top. Now, conversely, if you push Control 1, you're seeing the front and the back. So 1 is the front and Control 1 is the back. Similarly, when you push 3, you see the right, and when you push Control 3, you see the left, and with 7, you see the top, and Control 7, you see the bottom. All right, so that includes what you'll be able to see or not see based on what objects may be blocking your way. So kind of cool stuff. You can also hold down Shift and the middle mouse button to pan the view. You can toggle between orthographic and perspective mode by pushing 5, and that essentially just means that perspective mode means that things that are far away are small, things that are closer are big. Now these 2 edges are the same width, but because we're in perspective mode, the farther away one looks smaller. And toggling to 5 on the keyboard, on the keypad, the number pad, 5 will show you orthographic mode. And orthographic is a fairly typical way of seeing things in some games. So we have this. And our eventual goal will be able to put this in our films, in our videos. So making some animated stuff, some fake sets and what have you like that. Let me think if I'm missing anything. We got the pan with Shift and middle mouse button. Just middle mouse button lets us rotate the view. That's pretty much what you got to know for now. So let's go ahead and start making some stuff. Now, when you open Blender, you're going to see, just like a lot of programs do, a splash screen with some file openings or recent files or whatever on there. And check it out, that was made in Blender. There's a lot of cool stuff made in Blender. You might find some on YouTube. Anyways, if I just click anywhere, it's going to go into my scene. I can rotate around and see what's in there. And there's always starts with a cube. And if I push the N key, N shows me the transforms for this object, which means it's 2 meters wide. It's scaled at 1. So if I increase the scale of one of these, it's going to get bigger. You'll see the dimensions change as well. And if you're not familiar with the metric system, a meter is about 36 inches. But later, we're going to show you how to specify the kinds of units you'll measure with. Also, we have rotation. So if I change one of these, for example, this, that's going to rotate it. I can set the location differently and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and push. You're also going to find in here a camera. And to see what's in the camera, push the 0 on the keypad, on the num keypad. That's just a different way of viewing things. What we want to do actually, there's also light in here. So the light is visible if I go all the way up here to this mode over here. It lets me click on a material mode, when you can see the lights and the shadows on different parts of the object. What we're going to do though is we're going to just go with the basic viewpoint here. These are different ways of viewing with wireframe, with just the basic shape. This one here is with some of the materials, and this is with actually the lighting applied. So this one's really quick, and this one is also when I used the wireframe or the solid mode. This one's solid mode, and this other one is preview, and this one is render preview. So what we want to do is actually get rid of everything. So push A on the keyboard. A will select everything, and A, when you click on nothing, it'll deselect. So we're going to push A and delete everything. So we're not even going to have a camera in there. And we're going to push Shift A to create a plane. Now the plane knows where to go because our cursor is right at the middle. So if I select nothing, it shows me the position of my 3D cursor. So that's the object, sorry. If I select nothing, it's only going to give me the object dimensions of that object. What I want to find is there we go, view. This might be the position of the cursor. There we go. So I can move the cursor around. Okay, and we can just set that back to 0 because that's where we want to create everything from, is to 0. So everything's like this. Let's set that to 0. Oh, numpad key, there we go. So we're going to take this object and we're going to go back to item, and this is within, and we're going to push S for scale, and you can see the sizing getting bigger. So you can also just like take the whole thing and size it up this way, but it's easier to do it one way, just by pushing S for scale and cranking up the size. Now we're going to make some stuff to go in here, and we're going to learn how to apply other transforms on the object. And you could just make the transform numbers in here on the item. Be careful you're not in view. And this is N, again, N. We'll open that up, and opens it and closes it. So you can use that or not. Sometimes I close it and open it repeatedly during the process of modeling something. And if I push Shift A will allow me to choose and add stuff. Now there's a lot of things to make in here. So right now, just stick to the stuff in here. I'm gonna start with a cube. You're like, what? You already made a cube and it's gone. You should have just kept it. I know, but I want to show you how to make stuff. So notice it's kind of sunk into it's like centered on my cursor, on my 0 of my whole world is at 0, 0, and this thing's placed at 0, 0. So the first thing I want to do is bring it up. So bringing it up, moving it, can be done by location, up, down, up, down, up, down, or by G. G on the keyboard will engage move mode, and I'm going to move it up, so I'm going to push G and then Z. So if I push G and Z, it restricts movement to the Z axis. Now, some of us would say that the Y axis is vertical, not the Z. I don't know why they chose to do it that way, but Z is up and down in Blender. I'm going to move it up a bit more. I'm going to try to mess with rotation. Let me push R for rotate. I'm going to push X for the X axis, and then 45. So that was kind of cool. And I'm going to push R for rotate, Z for the Z axis, and 45. So now I've got it sitting kind of nicely there. I'm going to rotate it one more angle. I think R for rotate, Y for the Y axis, and 45. There we go. That's not quite what I was after. Gosh, it's close though. It's pretty close, I think. Maybe it's exactly what I wanted. Sure it is. So, yeah, it's kind of wanted to tilt it a little bit more on one of those axes. Anyways, looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it, more or less. Let's change these to 45. So you can change it here also by punching in the numbers. So I want to have it more like that. So I want to think that's like a part of a logo on a bank building or something like that. Who knows? Let's do Shift A again. This time, let's go ahead and choose a cylinder. And the cylinder shows up here. Now, you may see this more prominently, but there's an add cylinder or add anything object here, and we can change the vertices. So the more vertices something has, the more memory it takes to render. So we don't really need that many vertices. We can actually cut this down to like 12 if we want to. And we can change the depth and reduce the radius. So this allows you to control the exact properties and size of any object you might be making. So every time you push Shift A to make something, this will be available to specify things about that object. So I want to go ahead and take the rotation of this object on the x-axis and go by 90, because I want to kind of lay it on the ground. I'm going to bring it up. Let's see, if I notice that this thing is a 0.59 meter radius, half of that is about 0.3. So I'm going to bring it up in 0.3 here on my Z. And they kind of worked almost. Let's go a little bit more. And there we go. So you can kind of mess around with that. And you can push G to move it. Okay, so I use G, and if I don't constrain it to an axis, it's going up, down, left, right with no control. So I'm going to go to Y, go this way, I'm going to go to X, G and the X this way, G and the Y this way. Then I'm going to push R to rotate it in the Z, and I can freehand it to however I want. Now, something else to know about this object is it looks kind of geometric and square and harsh, but if you choose Object, I think, and then you choose Shade Smooth, it looks smoother and nicer, which is almost too weird for me, but I don't really like the shading on that, but that works okay. So let's go and leave it not shaded for now. Now we're going to make one more object, two more objects, sorry. Shift A, Mesh. This time let's make a cone, just for fun. And you can choose to make a donut if you want, or actually it's not a donut, it's a torus. Lots of stuff to pick from. You can choose to make the monkey if you want to, that's kind of fun. But you want a total of 4 things, and you want to adjust their position. So let's try this out. I'm going to go G and the Z. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to push R for rotate. I'm going to rotate it in the Y, so I'm going to push Y. I'm going to push 180. So now it's upside downish. I'm going to go G and the Y. I'm going to S for scale. Now if I do S for scale, I can say times 2, and then I can see it sticking out the bottom. And I want to have it standing up. So I want to have all of our objects above the plane that you made. So G for move and Z for the Z axis. And looking good, looking good. Next I'm going to try a Shift A sphere. Now a sphere tends to be thought of as a ball, right? As a perfect circle that's spun. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it taller so it's more oval shaped. So if I push S for scale and I choose Z for the Z axis, okay, and you can always get inside this and mess with this more later, but G in the Z moves it up. R in the Y, and it's going to tilt it like this. And you can always S for scale to uniform scale it. So all these transforms, rotate, scale, and move, can all be done on any axis you pick. So it allows you a great deal of control for any operation you might be doing to create stuff. Let's just for fun do, and you only got to do 4. If I do a torus is a lot like a donut. And notice that we can choose in this menu over here, when I've got this open, I'm not sure what the shortcut for that is, but I can change the segments. Major segments is the ones that will go around, and the minor segments is the details of it. So I'm going to crank this back down. That's less minor segments and less major segments. You can see them changing as we go. And then there's also a minor radius and a major radius. Now, the major radius is the, let's see, the radius is from the middle. So the major radius is across from here. So this is 1 meter. So the smaller radius is the circle part, so the size of this. So you can make this into a donut. There's actually a whole video by a guy named Blender Guru on YouTube, and he will talk your ear off showing you how to make a simple donut with frosting and sprinkles and stuff. It's pretty groovy. All right, so I got this. I'm going to R to rotate it in the X by 90, so I'm pushing RX 90. I'm going to move it up. G. I'm going to put it on top of the cone. So you can make an arrangement of whatever you choose. And you got to see the monkey. I can't remember the name of the monkey, but there's a name. This is like the adopted spirit animal of the of Blender. And I can't remember the name they have for it, but if I G and move it over, I can R to rotate it in the X like this. So RX, G, put it down. Now to finish this off, we're going to use the snipping tool to get a nice shot of this. Let's close all our other menus and get a nice composition going on. So I'm using Shift and middle mouse to move it up. I can kind of rotate my shot to see what I want there. You probably want to use perspective mode by pushing 5. So perspective. This is orthographic mode. This is perspective mode. So I'm going to get this. I want to see all my stuff as big as I can. You can cut off part of the plane if you want to, but something like this. So now to wrap that up, I'm going to go find my snipping tool, and you go to the here, type in snipping tool or snip or whatever. It's going to show up. Here it is. I'm going to push new. Now, earlier I had delay going on. I want to make sure I got no delay. New. And I'm going to take a picture of it. And we're going to turn that in. All right. So make one of those things. And you're going to save as a PNG and turn it into the assembly. Now yours will be unique if you want to. You can make the box more oblong, make it more rectangular. You can stretch these things. There's a myriad different things you can try out with this. So I'm not going to save this, but you're going to save yours. So for example, this log, I could choose to go scale in the Z to make it more like this, and that's kind of fun and interesting. G and the Z to move it up, and all kinds of other strange and groovy things to try. So what happens if I do with this one, with the square? If I do G and the Z, sorry, I want to do S and the Z. Okay, so that's making it S and the Z. I was kind of hoping to get that uniform in one scale. So there's a lot of things to work with. That's a starting position, a starting point. And I hope you have fun with Blender. Rock on.